So Americans spend significantly more time working than employees in any other developed country. And new research finds the so-called hustle culture of working extra hours is hurting women if they don't put in the overtime, but also if they do. Here to explain, Forbes Money editor Maggie McGrath and MSNBC contributor Huma Abedin. She's vice chair of the Forbes and Know Your Value 30/50 Summit. So, Maggie, your team at Forbes Women covered the findings, which were published in the Social Psychology Quarterly. Break it down for us. Exactly what did researchers discover?
Well, Mika, to your point, these findings are nuanced, but they're really important in our understanding for how women's work is and is not valued. So effectively, survey participants were asked to evaluate workers with identical performance records. The only difference between these workers is that one worked 40 hours a week and the other worked 60 hours a week. Overall, participants said that the overworkers should receive greater rewards, regardless of gender. Now, that would appear equal, but remember, the 40-hour worker got the same performance review, so should be seen as more efficient. This matters for women because we know from BLS and other data that women tend to work fewer hours per week than men. And one of the first big takeaways here is that when women are more efficient than a man who works 60 hours per week, she's not rewarded in the same way. The other big takeaway is that women are viewed less positively for their overwork. Survey participants called the 60-hour working men as more competent and more committed to their careers. Meanwhile, the women in the survey who work 60 hours per week were rated as less competent and needing more time to get the same amount of work done. So the overall conclusion is damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I have so many issues with this because we get more done in less time. We multitask. That's impossible. This seems like a lose-lose for women. Any takeaway here for employers, how they can help rectify this?
You know, but Maggie and I were just back there talking about damned if you do, damned if you don't was our first reaction reading this report on face value. But I do think for employers, it's helpful in that there's a very clear roadmap on things employers can do to make it better for everybody and level the playing field for everybody. So, for example, what I found interesting about the researchers saying, number one, instead of awarding or rewarding people for FaceTime, give evaluations based on performance, on results, on the work that you do. As Maggie just said, women can be more efficient than men. And so let's reward them for the work as opposed to showing up at the office for extra hours. And speaking of, maybe one of the things that employers can consider doing is limiting work hours. So you get the work done that you need and then you go home. And then the third thing, which we're all guilty of, is encouraging employees not to be on email or doing phone calls after work hours. I remember a period in my life, it didn't matter if it was Monday morning, Sunday morning, or Friday night, I was responding to emails, making phone calls. And finally, this whole concept of kind of being on the treadmill, that once you get on, it's impossible to get off because the more you work, the more the rewards are. Well, maybe there's a limit to what those rewards employers will give employees, and that makes it a more fair workplace for men as it is for women.
Yeah, I mean, you give advice to young women, and I'm wondering what you tell them trying to sort of walk this fine line between the hustle culture and so-called quiet quitting in hopes of advancing their careers. I know in this business, women go through sort of being all things to all people, and nobody really sees the amount of work they're doing because they're working for so many different parts of the network.
You know, Mika, you and I talk about this all the time. And just last month, coming back, what I say to young women all the time is find that balance and moderation where you can. I remember coming back from Forbes, be standing in my kitchen. None of us had slept. It was an extraordinary conference. I'm staring at piles of laundry everywhere. I open my fridge. I have, carrots that have gone bad in there. My son walks in, says he's hungry. I'm looking at my laptop and seeing how much work I have left to do, just feeling completely overwhelmed. And I am somebody who recognizes that balance is important. Sometimes you just have to take a minute and just take a breath and think about, just going through your checklist. But it's not easy. So I think it's one of the reasons why having supportive workplaces, like the place you run at Know Your Value, is important for all women to be successful.
And speaking of Know Your Value, Maggie, switching topics, we're in full swing collecting nominations for the Forbes and Know Your Value's 4th annual 50 over 50 U.S. list. Tell us what we need to do, because I think women need to nominate themselves. And just because a potential honoree applied, maybe didn't make it in years past, does that mean they could apply again?
Oh, absolutely, they should apply again. And I have 3 stories of success that I'm going to run through very quickly to give as inspiration. The first is Cheryl McKissick Daniel. She's the president and CEO of McKissick & McKissick. It's the oldest minority-owned design and construction firm in the United States. She oversees $50 billion worth of architecture projects. She was first nominated in 2021, didn't make the final cut, but applied again in 2023, or someone nominated her, and she made the cut. And what I would note is we had different judges in 2023 as we did in 2021. So while the criteria is the same, I think what the message I want to convey is what can be a no one year can turn into a yes a different year. Other examples of this include jewelry designer Roxanne Asulin. She was nominated in 2021. Ultimately, after another year of business results, a second look, she made the 2022 list. And then in 2022, beauty entrepreneur Laura Geller was nominated for the list. We considered her, we researched her, again, then went through the judging process, didn't make the final list, but was nominated again in 2023, and she made that 2023 list. And I would note that we like her for this list because she is committed to using women over the age of 40 in her marketing and advertising.
I love it. And that has a great message all around. Just don't let the no's get you down. Just try again. Maggie McGrath, Huma Abedin, thank you very much. And you can get all the information about our 50 over 50 list at Forbes.com or KnowYourValue.com. And you have until May 30th to get those nominations in. Nominate yourself.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.